Happy holidays, everybody. It is Christmas Eve today, and that can be a really fun, amazing time for a lot of people, and it can also be a really challenging, stressful, depressing, lonely time for many of you. So I want to address that today. What do you do when you're in that holiday funk, when you're anxious and depressed and just churning over the same negative thoughts again and again and again of why you're alone or why you're overweight or why you've eaten all this horrible food or why your family drives you nuts or why nothing ever changes? Whatever the thoughts that you are ruminating on, which means to go over and over and over and over and to basically chew your cud in your head until it drives you crazy. I've got something that I did this morning that was super effective for me. So I want to talk about that because maybe it'll work for you as well. I got some stuff going on in my life right now, and it's really challenging me. And sometimes I'm present and focused and clear and calm and compassionate. And sometimes I'm just in the middle of it, and I'm beating myself up, and I feel terrible, and my chest is tight, and there's a pain right there, and my stomach is in knots, and pain shooting down my arms, and totally stressed out. And that happened to me this morning when I woke up. Like, I woke up in that state. There was like a half-hour period where I was just lying in bed, torturing myself, and had no desire to get out of bed. You know, it's anxiety and depression combined, really, really bad situation. So, laying in bed, torturing myself, and finally, I realized, I'm anxious. Like I did my naming and taming technique, which is a video that I did recently. Check that out. So I acknowledged that I'm anxious. I said it. Wow, I'm anxious right now. Okay. I can feel it in my chest. I can feel it in my stomach, feel it in my arms. And, I'm ruminating. I'm going over the same thoughts again and again and again. And I just won't let them go. That's interesting. When you're ruminating, when you're processing the same stuff again and again and again, and it's usually negative, a part of the brain called the default network is taking control. And the default network shows up whenever you're bored, or whenever there's nothing going on, whenever there's no new stimulus, like lying in bed, there's no new stimulus. I've been there for 6 to 8 hours. The default network then shows up. And for most people, it says negative things. For some of you, the default network says good things to you when you're doing nothing. But this is why people don't like to be bored. Nothing's changing, nothing's going on, I'm bored, and what happens? Default network kicks in and starts driving you nuts. Just going over the day's garbage, or what somebody said to you, or what you didn't say to somebody, and just driving you crazy. So, by naming what you're feeling, by naming the experience, and by naming the process, anxiety and rumination, I'm engaging another part of my brain. I'm engaging the middle prefrontal cortex. That's the part that is cognitive and thinks about things. So by giving that part of my brain a little bit of juice, I'm turning down the default network a little bit. Not enough, but a little bit. That gives me a little bit more space now. And then the next thing I did was to move my body. I didn't have the energy to get out of bed yet, so I shifted my body and I turned in the bed. And what that did is it created a bunch of new stimulus. Okay, new parts of my body touching the mattress, new sounds as I move around in the blankets and sheets, and new feeling like the blankets rubbing over me. Okay, and I got present to all of that new stimulus. Like, okay, let's soak this in for a moment. Let's be mindful of this new stimulus. Because again, the default network, that rumination, shows up when there's no new stimulus. It's like there's nothing in the outside world to process, so let me start processing the day's garbage in here. Okay? Because there are no threats out there. There are no opportunities that I need to pay attention to. So let me just go over the reruns and see if there's anything in there that is important. New stimulus and being mindful to it will shut that off, which is why a mindfulness practice is so helpful for reducing stress. MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction. But here's the trick that they don't really talk about. You need to add some new stimulus. If you're just stuck and not moving and nothing is changing, there's no new stimulus to be present to, and your body has already tuned out the stimulus that you experienced 20 minutes ago or half hour ago. If you're just sitting down in the same spot, not doing anything new, your body's tuned it all out. Your body's like, well, this is not interesting. There's no threats or opportunities here, so I don't really care. If a part of you starts going numb, then that becomes a threat, and the body warns you and says, hey, look, this part hurts or it's going numb. But if you're just hanging out, being comfortable, and nothing's changing, it's really hard to be mindful. So move your body, change something. Change something physically, change the sound, change the temperature, change something so there's something to be mindful to, and that wakes up the part of your brain that checks things out, looking for threat or opportunity. So, first step, name it. I'm anxious and I'm ruminating. It gives you a little bit of space. And once you have that little bit of space, move your body. And when you move your body, pay attention to that new stimulation. What do the blankets sound like? What do they feel like? What does my arm feel like if I now lean over onto my right side? What does it feel like if I get into a fetal position, which is what I did this morning, cuddled up in the blankets? And really get present to that. And that'll turn the default network off because you got new information coming in. And it's really engaging the middle prefrontal cortex, okay, which is where planning happens, where you think about the future, where your cognitive processing takes place. And there are two types of cognitive processing. Yeah, up here in the prefrontal cortex, we've got conscious cognitive processing, but then we also have the cognitive unconscious, and that's your default network. So we're moving it into a conscious deliberation rather than this loop that just plays and we don't even want to listen to it. We're like, stop. Why can't I stop this? Because it's your cognitive unconscious. So by naming it and getting present to new sensations, you now awaken your conscious cognitive powers, and you can start to gain control again and turn that default network off. And this will have a pretty immediate effect on you. It might not last very long at first, but it will have an immediate effect. After I did that, after I named it and then I shifted and got present, I was good. I felt really good. But then a couple minutes later, the rumination machine starts churning up again. So I repeated the process. And that gave me about 10 minutes. Then the rumination kicked in again, repeated the process. And after the third time, I was good. I was calm. The rumination stopped, and I started reflecting on some good things in my life. It gave me the space to experience the positive. It gave me the space to see other perspectives, good ones. And it gave me the space to remember really extraordinary, amazing things that have happened to me that I'd forgotten about. Because this guy, your prefrontal cortex, is also involved in memory. Okay, that's where a lot of your memories are stored. So if it's offline, you're not able to remember the good things. They're not available to you. I hope that's of value to you. Give it a try if you bump into some stressful experiences over the holidays or at any time. Name it, change it, get present to it, and then repeat it. Okay? As often as you need. And let me know what happens if you try it. Leave your experience in the comments below. Okay? Happy holidays. I love you. Bye.